The first part focuses on Denji, whereas the second part focuses on a new character, Asa Mitaka. Asa is a character that is loved by a wide variety of people, especially autistic women, so I'll be doing a deep dive into Asa Mitaka in the first 3 arcs of Part 2 in their chronological order. I will not be doing an expansive look into the other characters or any other plot lines in Part 2 that do not center around Asa. So if you see me glossing over certain characters or certain plot lines, that is to be expected. Chainsaw Man is primarily a manga about human connection and desires. The Academy arc is the first arc of Chainsaw Man Part 2, and it's packed full of exposition. I'll pay special attention to this first chapter, and I'll move through it slowly, as I believe it's a masterclass in exposition and cinematic-like storytelling in manga. Let's start with the Bucky plotline. The first chapter begins by introducing the context of the classroom environment and Asa's social tendencies. Right from the start, Asa is portrayed as an antisocial loner. We get our first look at her from behind. In this panel, she's slouched over on her desk and looking down, whereas most other students are seated upright and looking at the teacher. But it's actually Bucky, a headless chicken devil, that is the first character to be introduced to us. Asa's teacher explains that the class will take care of Bucky for 3 months before killing and eating him. In the next sequence, we get our first good look at Asa's appearance as she leaves the classroom to eat her lunch on the roof. As the outsider she is, she walks through the school, expressing violent and judgmental and agitated thoughts towards any group of friends or any couple. We also learn at this point that her parents were killed by devils. Also, I should mention that she kind of did the soy virgin walk while doing all of this. When she reaches the roof, we see a flock of birds disperse above her. We know from Part 1 that birds, especially crows, are associated with devils or outsider influences. On the roof, the class president joins her and tries to interact. Asa has a strong sense of morality from her perspective. This is made apparent after she notices the class president eating a Chainsaw Man curry snack, after which she calls out the perceived corruption in the city, its mayor, and Chainsaw Man's very existence. She says she wishes that Chainsaw Man would die. This sentiment likely comes from her strong dislike of devils due to the killing of her parents, kind of similar to Aki in Part 1. I would also note that Fujimoto likes to use the devils as foils for their human counterparts. I'll talk more about this later at the end of the chapter, but for now, it's interesting to note that Asa may share some qualities or desires with the War Devil. Over the course of the remaining 3 months, the class becomes fond of Bucky. Everyone except for Asa, who's irritated at the fact that the Chicken Devil is becoming the class favorite. She does not interact with the students, nor does she participate in befriending Bucky. When it comes time to kill Bucky, Asa appears to be vindictively pleased. But the classroom unifies and stands up for Bucky, stating that they no longer want to kill him. Asa is shocked at this behavior. Part of me believes that this is because, as we saw earlier, she has a rigid perception of the thoughts and morality of the people around her. The classmates killing Bucky would have confirmed her view that the people around her are selfish and self-serving, while also getting rid of this chicken devil that she doesn't like. In this show of compassion, not only is the chicken devil shown to be deserving of compassion, but the students are shown to be capable of showing it. Additionally, Asa might be feeling ashamed in this moment, as if she is lower than a chicken devil. If a headless chicken can befriend an entire classroom that hated him from the start, why can't Asa befriend a single person? The teacher is happy at the student's decision and releases the class to play soccer for the rest of the remaining class time. As the other students run out, Asa is left alone in the room, and once again, the chapter is driving home the point that Asa is not a part of her surrounding environment. She's not a part of the classroom unit, she doesn't have any friends, and she doesn't partake in any of the activities that the people around her are partaking in. When she finally does go outside, Bucky jumps into her arms immediately, calls her name, and tells her to step out of her shell. Asa is amazed that Bucky took notice of her and remembered her name, stating, "My name, but only the class president and the teacher ever remember my name." There's some good insight from Asa at this moment. Oftentimes, people tend to look down on the things that they can't have or achieve. Asa looked down on things like friendship, social interaction, Asa looked down on things like friendship and social interaction, but wrapped it in a false sense of a higher morality. Why interact with your surroundings when you believe that everything is corrupted? Because of this, she was unable to simply exist in the moment and spent most of her time just kind of soy walking by herself. In this moment, she realized that her classmates weren't as judgmental as she originally thought. Asa recognizes that she was just jealous of the other classmates who are able to have connections. And with Bucky in her arms, she runs over to go and interact with the other students. As she runs towards the other students, she trips and falls on top of Bucky. Bucky is killed instantly, and when she raises herself up, Bucky's organs are exposed. As her classmates react to Bucky's death, we see Asa's first panic attack that results in her vomiting and passing out while having suicidal thoughts. Her brief moment of stepping out of her shell comes to an abrupt end, as when we return to class, she's an even bigger outsider than she was before. The sequence of panels here with Asa and the rest of the classmates reacting to Bucky's death is some of my favorite paneling that Fujimoto has done in Part 2. With this event, we transition from the introductory half of the chapter into the War Devil introduction. Asa's distraught over what happened at school when someone rings her doorbell. Fujimoto draws a zooming in of Asa's front door. From Part 1, we know that closed doors, which are portrayed in this specific fashion, are associated with past and future trauma, undesirable knowledge, and devils. The teacher and the class president are there to take Asa to visit Bucky's grave. While walking, Asa pauses at a traffic crossing because the light is red, but the other two carry on ahead. The class president urges Asa to cross the road, but the teacher defends her decision. The class president then reveals her jealousy of Asa while monologuing about how the teacher favors Asa over her. It turns out that she made a contract with the Justice Devil in order to undermine Asa. The key moment here for Asa is that we learn that the Justice Devil was somehow behind her tripping and falling on Bucky. This concept of devils influencing unlucky outcomes for Asa will come up again later. The Justice Devil slashes Asa's face, and when she's dying, she has a series of revelations within a fraction of a second. Oh, I wasn't responsible for Bucky's death after all. The class president was jealous of me too. Oh, it must be like that for everyone. Everyone is jealous of somebody. If I'd known, I could have had a better life. Maybe I could have had friends, or even had a boyfriend. I wish I'd tried living just a little more selfishly. At this point, a near-death devil appears to Asa in the form of a putu-like bird. "If you want to live, your body will be mine," the bird says. Moments later, we see Asa resurrect, and we get our first battle scene of Part 2. This version of Asa is her war devil form. She does not wear a ponytail, has a scar on her face in the shape of the cut that the Justice Devil just made, and has the signature devil eyes that we see Makima have in Part 1. She's able to make weapons out of objects, including humans. In this scene, she makes a sword out of the spinal cord of the teacher and a hand grenade out of the class president's arm. After defeating the Justice Devil, the War Devil notices a poster of Chainsaw Man on the wall and declares war against him. "I'll make you vomit nuclear weapons back up," she says. If you remember from part 1, Chainsaw Man has the ability to eat other devils and wipe their existence from human memory in the process. This is what the War Devil is referencing here. It also explains her near-death animal form that we saw earlier. We know in part 1 that the fight between Chainsaw Man and the Four Horsemen was likely the reason for Pochita's state in the start of Chainsaw Man part 1. Denji and Pochita were friends and partners before they became one. Denji expressed his desires to Pochita long before he died, and when he was resurrected, Pochita promised to help Denji achieve his dreams. In this way, Pochita was kind of like a nearly silent, guardian angel-like presence in Denji's life that would assist and guide him whenever help was needed. In part 2, Asa's contract with the War Devil was one of opportunity on the War Devil side, with the War Devil having no interest in Asa's desires or dreams. Influence from American superhero comic books are seen in Fujimoto's form of storytelling in Chainsaw Man. In American comics, it's a common trope for the main character to have split identities. This is a narrative trope where a character leads a double life, typically involving a contrast between their daily identity and a more passionate and bold one, with both identities offering something to the character. In this way, one can make the argument that on a symbolic level, the War Devil will serve as an exaggerated representation of parts of Asa that she keeps suppressed. So, in the very first chapter, we were introduced to Asa, her social standing, her devil contract with one of the Four Horsemen, and the primary conflict throughout Chainsaw Man Part 2, which is the fact that the War Devil has found a host and is after Chainsaw Man. In the next video, we're going to continue through the Academy arc and get to know Asa and the War Devil better.